Welcome back, listeners, to That's a Good Card. Today, Ya will have the challenge of getting me to say, "That's a good card." While Ya will be doing the convincing, I'll be playing the devil's advocate. If you're interested in more Tag C content, check out our Patreon in the link down below. Also, now's a good time to remind you to hit that subscribe button if you're listening to us on YouTube. And please leave a comment below with your thoughts on today's topic, as well as a suggestion for our next card. All right, y'all, let's get started. What kind of spice have you brought to us today?
This one's a little bit newer, and I did my normal scrounging around so that we can hit all of these different card types before the end of the year. I decided to bring Marvin, Murderous Mimic. It's a 2-cost, 2 generic, legendary artifact creature toy, 2/2. And it says, Marvin, Murderous Mimic has all activated abilities of creatures you control that don't have the same name as this creature. And then its flavor text is, in a moment of bloodthirsty whimsy, a Razorkin once picked up a ventriloquist puppet and used it to terrorize a survivor. Now it hunts on its own with no one pulling its strings. Not gonna lie, it's kind of the stuff of nightmares.
Terrifying. It's great for this Duskborn set, and for the people who play Magic who love the horror theme in general, I'm sure they love this. For me personally, who's a big baby and doesn't watch a lot of horror movies, it scares the crap out of me.
Yep,
so I appreciate you, Ya, for filling my nightmares tonight with this creepy doll thing. Thank you.
Well, according to CEDH Analytics, it's not creating too many nightmares because right now in its database, what the latest form, it has no decks running this card.
Yeah, it's just not updated.
Yeah, it's just not updated.
Unfortunately. Yeah, it kind of stinks. But we parsed through the recent top 16 deck lists for Wide Rage tournaments. And what'd you find?
It was in the top 4 in a Sisay list recently.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah.
I think it was in multiple Sisay lists. I was looking through a lot of Sisay lists, and I think quite a few Sisays are on this card right now. Where else did you find it? It's
also in Stella Lee, some of the newer versions post-Dockside ban, because it combos with Stella Lee. Right, like once it meets conditions, now you can tap this also using Stella Lee's ability to then, especially in a stack war. I saw this go off actually in a friend's, one of our friends, Sean's Stella Lee list, where Marvin can copy Stella Lee's ability or has Stella Lee's ability, and so in response to something, he can tap down Marvin to copy the spell as well as Stella Lee.
Yeah. Well, it's the big thing, too, is that like you can play Marvin on earlier turns to give it haste, right? Yep. So then you have Stella Lee. Like when you cast Stella Lee, if you have Marvin and you play Marvin on an earlier turn, then you have Stella Lee right away. Yeah, that's big.
It's also seeing play in Tayum, right? Because Tayum has a lot of activated abilities, and so this can come in with the activated abilities of a number of different creatures. I know Tayum also has ways to give things haste, and so this is also seeing play there. Interesting.
Cool. All right, get into your points, Ya.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm ready. And I'll preface this first. I really appreciate you bringing this card to the pod, because to be honest, doing research on this card and thinking about this card has made me learn a lot about this card. Because to be honest, when I first saw it, I was like, why the hell is anybody playing this card? It's like kind of a clone, but it's like a crappy clone. That was my initial thought reaction to it. So I'm really hoping that what we get out of this podcast is, one, we have good conversation, but two, that people in the comments below will post any sort of cool interactions with this card that we miss, that they know of, because I really think that this card is underexplored in general.
Oh, yeah.
All right. With that, get into your points. What do you got for us?
All right. The first point is, in this current meta makeup, this is kind of the prime time to be running this card, right? We're in such a creature-heavy meta. We know that WotC has definitely been moving towards printing more creatures, and so we're only going to get more creatures with activated abilities. And so This is just a great, if you're playing green, you can probably slot this card in pretty simply, right? Like it's going to just kind of slide in really easily. It's going to let you, and this kind of touches on my second point a little bit, right? Because this now is a second mana dork, right? Almost right away with like 2 toughness, right? So your Birds of Paradise, your Bloom Tender, right? This is going to come down and have those abilities. It's also a second Sisay if you need it, a Kinnan, a Thrasios. Now, why do you need to like activate your own commanders?
Why do you need that though?
Why not?
Like, I don't know.
Why not?
Okay.
When has that ever? Because maybe our listeners listen to us and they're playing Pithing Needle, or what's that card that you brought that's not Pithing Needle?
No, that doesn't work that way, because if it no longer has the activated ability, then Marvin doesn't copy it.
It doesn't have it?
I thought it just can't. I thought it can't activate them?
Can't
be activated? I don't know. We'd have to look at it. I'm picking up what you're putting down slightly, if it's relevant. Anyway, Judge?
We have one now.
Anyway, continue.
It's going to have those abilities where, again, and I think it is important for the decks like Stella Lee, like Tiam, where you want potentially multiple instances of an ability to be able to kind of like stack on top of each other. Again, like with Stella Lee, like we were talking about earlier, it's you tap it to copy a spell, people start trying to counter it, and so then you have Marvin come in and also tap to copy a spell, and you can now layer things on top in the stack so that...
Sure, for a tapper, I get it, yeah.
Right.
So for a commander or any creature that is a tap to activate, this makes sense. It doesn't really make sense when it comes to something like a Kinnan or a Thrasios. That doesn't make sense at all, because it's like if you have one, then you have the other. So, but I get where you're coming from a tap. You don't need both. That makes no sense. Anyway.
You're absolutely right.
Anyway, continue.
I think the strongest point about this card is that it's so easy to cast, right? And it is 2 generic mana, right? If this card is if you're in a activated creature heavy type of deck, this is going to slot in really easily, and it's going to give you that extra mana dork that you need, right? The one thing that I actually wasn't able to kind of find out, I was doing some research and I never got a clear answer on this, is like, so Marvin Roulette says that he has all activated abilities of creatures you control that don't have the same name as this creature. One of the things I was thinking about and hoping to answer for folks before when we put this out is, if an enchantment gives a creature an ability, right? That creature has that ability, right?
It depends on the specific card, because sometimes cards say you can tap something to do something, and in which case that is the card's ability, not the thing that you're tapping. And other times there's cards that say, like, for example, Enduring Vitality is a card that is same set that has come out that says creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. That would work. I mean, obviously that doesn't really matter because Marvin would have that ability as a creature, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's giving... Yes. If a permanent is giving another creature the ability versus the permanent is activating through a card, is a very different thing. So, cool. Yeah. Any more points?
I do. I have a fun fact one.
Ooh, I love the fun point.
I think this has some really interesting synergies with a card we brought up recently, Drana and Linvala. Right, so if you don't know too much about that card, go back, listen. Yeah. Right.
Drana and Linvala shuts off activated abilities of your opponent's creatures, and then it has the activated abilities of all those creatures that it's shutting off. So if you have Drana and Linvala and Marvin now has all the activated abilities
of all of your
Drana
opponents,
and Linvala, which is all of your opponents. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you have everything. Yeah, that's really interesting.
That is really interesting. And then I think what we talked about in that podcast was just like the potential ability, like now you kind of you can sacrifice Marvin if somebody else has a Ranger Captain, right? And not have to sacrifice your Drana
I thought that was going to be one of the first things you brought up, because I think that's gas. Double Ranger Captain seems hot with Marvin.
Right.
So I'm definitely interested in that as a big target for this card. You're paying two colorless mana to sack for Ranger Captain activation at any given time. That's awesome. And then you still have your actual Ranger Captain. That's dope.
Right. And like with that one, you can play this out, sacrifice it right away if you want after ETBs, because chances are I don't think people are going to counter this one. I maybe, but like you're not going down too much because it's only 2 costs, right? It's a 2 cost 2/2 creature, so it's going to come down and it's going to be pretty. It's just not a tempting target, right? And I think that this is just so unassuming. But then it's just as you are able to get more of your own creatures out there, like this just kind of gains more value at the longer it sits there and the more you can kind of do your game plan.
Yep.
Cool. But that's it. This card's pretty simple for me in terms of like it's just there. It has all of the anything that you would want to double, like your Ranger Captains, like your Stella Lees. This is going to be able to do that.
And before you move on, I think we should probably mention its combo potential as well, because I think like you mentioned Sisay specifically as running this card, and the reason why is because a lot of Sisays are now using this card with Ireth, the Healing House, which is a 3-cost blue creature. I think it's 2 and a blue, and it has 2 activated abilities. One of them is tap, untap another permanent, and the other is tap,
untap 2
to untap 2 other
legendary
creatures. Thank you.
Yep. So
like with Marvin having Ireth's abilities, if you have one other like legendary creature out that does something off a tap, like makes mana of some kind, then you have infinite mana. Like it's just like it's an infinite sink for another legendary thing if you have this card and that card, because you can just tap, untap kind of thing. So there's some legendary creatures like Esika, God of the Tree, that can just tap for a mana of any color. Yeah, so like those are the kinds of things. Or if you just have like an Enduring Vitality out or something like that, where you can just tap anything for a color, then now you have infinite mana. So I think it's also like not only is it just for the value pieces like a Ranger Captain or a Bloom Tender, it's also a straight up combo piece to get infinite mana, win the game in specific lists.
Right, and I think it can combo with it's also another Devoted Druid potentially, right? It also has the ability to be, oh my gosh, I just thought about it. Your Sylvan Safekeepers. Wait, is that the one where you can sack a land? Land,
give
right?
Something Shroud.
Right.
Yeah. Sylvan Safekeeper, sack a land, give something Shroud.
Yeah. And so like I think it's like you said, I think it's more of a really underexplored card right now. Probably in the list that are like looking for extra ways to use those abilities, right? Like I can't think of it right now, but it's like the Return an Elf, and you can only activate it once. I can't think of it right now.
Kyrian Ranger?
Kyrian Ranger, right?
Is that the one?
I think it is.
That's Return a Forest. Kyrian Ranger is return a forest you control to its owner's hand to untap target creature, activate only once each turn.
And now you can do that.
Like, yeah, Kyrian Ranger, Ashaya is like a common thing because then like Ashaya makes everything a forest.
Forest, yeah.
So then you can return forests, or you can return it can technically return itself.
Yep, it can return itself.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, those are my points. It's an underexplored combo potential, and so let's go talk about some of the downsides, Kyle.
All right. Now, I will say that, like I said, before getting into this, I really do want to hammer down that this is really unexplored, especially unexplored for me. I bet you there's quite a few people who are going to shed a lot of light onto this card for us, which is great because, I mean, the fact that you already brought this card to us means that we have interest in this card. But we just need to be convinced maybe a little bit more before we start thinking like, this is a staple, right? So it's a perfect card for us, a type of card for us to review. Maybe we'll convince some listeners. Maybe some commenters will help us convince other people. We'll see. But let's get into the downsides. The first one is that the floor is just really low. If you don't have any activated abilities of creatures on your battlefield, It is a 2/2 for 2 that does nothing. So, like, that's rough. A 2/2 for 2 is not really the kind of rate we're looking for in CEDH, especially 2/2 for 2 with no activated abilities. So, sure, maybe it can hit somebody, punch somebody in the face who's wide open and get a Timna trigger or something like that. But realistically, the floor is very low. If you don't have another piece to give it some sort of valuable ability. In that sense, I'm basically saying that the card is reliant on other cards. So it's definitely, I don't want to put it in like a proactive versus reactive situation, because a lot of times it might seem proactive. If to you as the pilot, it's proactive in a sense, because you can play it with a plan early and then have a payoff in your hand to then play and then use the ability with haste, like use some sort of tap ability that Marvin now has, and Marvin has haste. Not haste, but Marvin doesn't have summoning sickness anymore because he played him in the previous turn.
Correct.
So it can be proactive in that sense, but the fact that it's reliant on a secondary piece to be good gives me some hesitations. And that kind of leads me into the second point I have, which is a lot of times there's just not a lot of targets for activated abilities of creatures in common decks. So like we were talking about on our podcast about Drana and Vala, a lot of lists only have like 6 to 8 targets of something with an activated ability of a creature specifically. So if our targets are that low, it's a little concerning for ourselves, because yes, we want, like, those are the targets that we're probably tutoring for. We want to see these cards more, but at the same time, like, Drana and Linvala is going off of 6 to 8 on average, but for your opponent. So there's 3 people that it could potentially pull from, if that makes sense. So there's 3 times as many options that you're going to find something with an activated ability, versus if you're just playing your own deck with your own creatures, you're probably not going to have more than 10 cards, and that's generous, that are going to have an activated ability of a creature that you're looking for. So, I mean, here, let me look up a Sisse list that is running it. Let's see how many creatures with activated abilities that it has. I'm seeing Bop, that's 1. I'm seeing Bloom Tender, that's 2. I'm not counting Colossal Sky Turtle. I'm seeing Delighted Halfling, that's 3. I'm not counting Derevi. I'm seeing Emil, that's 4, but it's not a tap creature, so it's not super necessary, but it's fine. We'll leave it at 4. Let's see what else. Essika, God of the Tree, we talked about that. That's 5. Ignoble Hierarch, that's 6.
Fabro Elder.
Irith, the Healing House, that's 7. Fabro Elder, that's 8. Noble Hierarch, that's 9. Selvala, that's 10. This list has Skrelv Defector. I don't think a lot of them have that, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt and go ahead and say 11 targets. So 11 targets in your deck is like the tip top for this card, because I think Sisse is the list that will play this the most, and historically has played this the most. I mean, the history is quite short because this came out in Duskborn, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So like even 11 targets is a pretty small number of cards relative to the total cards in your deck. And that being said, like half of those that I listed are just mana dorks for 1. So that's my second point, is just there's a small volume of cards that have inactivated abilities in a general CEDH list that would want this card. Thoughts on that?
I think that, especially for the lists that want those activated abilities, like the ability to have just another Selvala is kind of big, especially in a Sisse, right? That's a huge impact on that list, right? To be able to have a second creature that has the ability to now give Sisse 5 more mana is rather hugely impactful, right?
Yes.
You're right. Like,
it's not like pure infinite combo, but like a double Sisse tutor is like you win the game.
Right.
So
right.
I get how impactful that is. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you got Trick Bind, baby, or Opposition Agent, baby.
Does it do it for? On the Sensei. Yes, you're right.
I'm just like, yeah. All right, yeah.
Like you said, like I think that depending on the creature density, right? Like, yeah, you're either looking for this kind of effect or you're not. All right. I don't see a world where almost any blue farm list plays this, right? Like they just don't have the density.
They have like one creature. It's like Ranger Captain. That'd be wild. Yeah, no. I don't see it going into, like, it's not going to become a staple in any lists that don't run activated abilities of creatures. That's quite obvious.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm just interested in especially fringe lists that are using this, right? Just because I feel like the possibilities with this card seem high. Especially with the whole tap untap type of bullshit. Like, there's a lot of cards that give weird tap untap. There's even like those untappers. Like, I think there's an infinite combo with this card, and like, what is that untapper? That's like, is it like Peely or something like that?
Peely, yeah.
Let me look it up. Is it Peely?
Yeah, it's called.
Yeah, there's like that's the one that's like K2 untap.
Yeah, Peely Pila.
Yeah.
Go
ahead and read that card out. Do you have it up?
Yeah, Peely Pila is a 2-cost artifact creature scarecrow with flying, and it says, pay 2, untap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Untap is the untap symbol, or this symbol is the untap symbol. So yeah, you're going to go to combat with this creature and pay 2 to untap it, and then so something that gives you like an abundance like extra mana, right? You're going to be able to kind of like loot this with the extra mana to tap and untap it, right? And so
got you. Yeah. So like I just Googled it as well just to find the combos, because I've seen videos on like the combos that this is possible with. So it looks like the Marvin, Peely Pala, and like Palladium Mirror popped up right away, which is just like tap, add 2 colorless. Like that is an infinite combo. Or Marvin, this is an interesting one. Marvin, Cryptic Trilobite, and Farmstead Gleaner.
Yep.
Whoa. Cryptic Trilobite is an XX creature, Trilobite 0/0, for those of you who don't know. And it says when it ETBs with, Cryptic Trilobite enters the battlefield with X 1/1 counters on it. Remove a 1/1 counter from Cryptic Trilobite. It's activated to cost. Add 2 colorless. Spend this mana only to activate abilities. And then 1 tap, pay, put a 1/1 counter on Cryptic Trilobite. And then the Farmstead Gleaner is like an untapper like Peely Pala. And I do not know how to pronounce that. Like Peely Pala.
Peely Pala.
And that gives you infinite mana, but only for activated abilities, is what it looks like here. So anyway, super big tangent, because I don't think we're probably going to see any of these in CEDH decks, but you never know. Something like this. The point I'm trying to make is like something like this could appear in the CEDH sphere, where these obscure cards that end up making a really powerful combo with Marvin and some sort of untap effect.
Yep.
Or classic WotC fashion, they print something that goes absolutely nuts with Marvin and they don't realize it. You know what I mean? Like there could be some sort of shenanigans that are like, this is one of those cards that I feel like developers of new cards and new sets have to think about a lot to be like, is Marvin gonna break this card when we print it? You know what I mean? Like that might happen.
Yeah.
All right. So that's kind of my second point. And my last point is that it kind of just feels like a win more card to me. And I know, like, this is not counting the infinite combos, like the lists that go infinite with it. It seems kind of win more-y for some of the scenarios that we're talking about. Like, for example, even using the Ranger Captain as an example. Having 2 Ranger Captains kind of feels win more-y to me. Because, like, if you already have a Ranger Captain out and you've already searched for your Esper Sentinel, I feel like you're in a pretty good board state. Is that too much to ask? Like, are you in the driver's seat just by having a Ranger Captain? I guess not.
No,
it's hard to say.
You can always sacrifice that to protect, to make sure somebody else can't win, right? You sack Marvin, right?
Oh no,
to make sure, right? Like,
I understand how powerful it is.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, is it necessary? Like, if you already have a Ranger captain, are you scared of losing the game? Probably not, right? So, I don't know. It's kind of this weird scenario where it kind of feels like a win more card to me. And this is just a gut feeling. And this could just be, I'll be completely honest, this could just be I don't have enough reps with this card. I'll be frank, like I said at the beginning, I have 0 reps with this card. I have had this card played against me. I have lost to Sisay in a tournament playing Marvin, the Mimic.
I can see that.
Using the IRF combo that I was talking about. I have lost to Sisay doing that. But that being said, I have not played this card because I haven't found a slot in my current list that it would make sense for me to use. So it may just be that I don't have enough experience with this card, but when I first read it and I think about its use case, it seems a little Win-Mori. Especially in something like, even in Sisay, like when I lost to it, it was like they had to have another piece out. They had to they played this early, they had to get another piece out, and then they had to put the activation on the stack. You know what I mean? So it's just it's tied into that first point where it's like, it has to be reliant on another piece to do it. So it's like, it's not like an A plus B, it's like an A plus B plus C kind of situation. And there's just so many things in CEDH where the A plus B is good enough and you don't need the A plus B plus C. I don't know. Maybe I just need to get off my pedestal. But that's my last point.
I think it totally depends on the deck, right? Like some of the decks that used to run Dockside kind of do need the A plus B plus C now, right? Like I mean, I guess Sisay always used to be kind of like an A plus B plus C. I mean, the whole point is to be able to fetch things at like at instant speed. But
it's normally a fetch into a fetch into a fetch.
Into a fetch.
Thing. Like
into
you
a fetch,
cascade your fetches into a win.
And this helps you get to the fetches, I guess. Is kind of the thing. But, you know, like I said, it's just one of those cards that's really kind of interesting. I don't see it played everywhere yet. And I think that you made some really good points. And one of the points you made that I think makes the most sense for its biggest downside is that it does kind of have a low floor, right? It can come out and you kind of have to wait, right? So you get this turn 1, you keep it for whatever reason, and you play it out, and like it's going to sit there. Hopefully unassuming, but it's going to sit there and not necessarily do anything right away. It doesn't move the game as forward for you as you may want right away.
It will catch. The other thing we didn't talk about is you do have to play it and then pass a lot of the times early, and it will catch OBM strays.
Oh yeah,
like,
for sure.
If it it's gonna die to like Rhystic Trigger response, okay, cast Orcish Bowmaster, like it's gonna be one of the targets that goes down, because I think people are starting to become aware that it can be really powerful in those specific decks, right? In a Stella Lee, in a Sisay, in something that's gonna be able to abuse it. It's already kind of starting to raise eyebrows. So the fact that it's a 2/2 means that it's dying off of OBM pretty consistently.
Yeah. But like that's just living in an OBM
that's
world,
the world
right?
we live in. Yeah, that is
All
the
right,
OBM
Kyle,
world.
What point do you think best supports for why you should consider this card in your 99?
Honestly, I'm gonna do a go off the rails one, and this is that I think that both of us, like, this should be a positive for it because we both said it. I think the positive for this card is that it is underexplored. Like, we need to figure out as a CEDH community how to break this card even further. Like, we have to go further beyond. We have to go deep into our think tank of breaking this card, because I think the potential is right there. Like, it's so close to being like completely the most busted card ever. It just maybe WotC needs to just print a couple more cards. But I just really like the fact that it's underexplored, and I really want to see some obscure but effective combos with it.
Yep.
All right, listeners, so don't go posting this six card 15 mana combo with Marvin that you play in the casual table and you're like, yes, this is it. Don't post that. But I would love to listen to some sort of actually effective combo with Marvin that's successful. I want to hear about it. I like the idea. I haven't had enough exposure to it yet. But anyway.
All right, listeners, it's time. Do we think we've exposed enough of this card to Kyle? Is this a good card? Is he convinced, Kyle?
I hope Marvin doesn't expose himself to me.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
All right, listeners, it's time. Have we convinced Kyle?
No, you don't have to redo that.
No, we're taking that. All right, Kyle, is it good?
Oh my God, I'm dying right now. The great thing about this is going to be the episode that's released like probably
Right before
around
Christmas?
the holidays.
Yeah, right before Christmas. Yeah.
So someone's going to be just listening to this and go, "Hey, yo."
Hey, Grandma.
Gonna get an "Ayo" in the comment if you just heard that. Yeah. All right, my answer here is, you know what? I was gonna say no, but I'm actually gonna say yes. My brain is smooth, and that's why I'm saying yes. So I just think I'm just not, like I said, my small, smooth brain has not been able to comprehend how good this card is. But the fact that it's seeing a lot more play, like this just got released in Duskborn, and I'm already getting whooped by it in CEDH. That's a green flag to me. To me, when the card is complicated, but it's already kind of popping off, like that's a big green flag. You know what gives me you know what vibes this card gives me?
What?
Perplexing Chimera vibes.
Oh.
Like something that
Whoa,
I'm like,
really?
Like, F that,
really?
I am not playing that. Like, it sounds complicated. Like, it's obviously not as complicated as that, but my brain kind of hurts when I think about it. And I know it shouldn't feel that way, but it does for whatever reason. And maybe it's because the card art is so creepy that I don't want to pick up the card and read it a lot, you know? So I kind of just, like, glance at it really quick. You know, I just like squint my eyes at it. I'll cover one eye when I read it because I'm scared. But I think that, like, I have hope that this card is underexplored, and I want to see it succeed. So I'm going to say Marvin, Murderous, Mimic, that's a good card.
Ooh, we got there, folks. I think I'm going to be able to close out this year on a positive. Like,
you're on a hot streak.
On a hot streak. At the beginning of the year, at the beginning of this whole adventure. It was rough.
Yeah.
I might need to go back to that because I think we're getting less listeners. So please share this. If you're listening to this over the holidays, share this episode.
You know, it's what I will also say is I may or may not be saying yes, winking, because I don't want Marvin the Murderous Mimic to come for me in my nightmares tonight.
That's totally fair.
Just kidding. All right, y'all. If you haven't played before, it is time for our closing segment. That's a good card, ? If you haven't played with us before, what we're going to do is will be providing me the name of an obscure magic card, and it's going to be my job, as well as yours, the listener, to guess everything about that card. Color, type, cost, flavor text, art, everything about it. So go ahead and give us the name of our obscure card, and then listeners, don't forget to pause and play along with us in the comments down below. Make your guess. Tell us what you think. See if you get closer than I do. All right, I'm ready for my obscure magic card.
The card today is Spin Crusher. Spin Crusher. One word.
Spin Crusher. Interesting. I'm immediately thinking of like a Beyblade made of bones. That's the artwork. It's just like a tornado.
I love it.
Bones.
I love it.
Yeah. A bone-nado. I shouldn't be laughing at that as much as I am. But anyway, was it Skull? What was it? Skull?
Spin
Crusher.
Crusher.
It again?
Spin Crusher.
Spin Crusher. Spin Crusher. Yeah. So it's gonna be like the art immediately is a bone tornado. It's gonna be a black card. It's going to be one colorless, one black pip. It's a creature. Spirit. Nightmare.
Whoa. Spirit Nightmare. Okay.
Creature, or maybe it's Nightmare Spirit. I feel like they would say Nightmare Spirit. Creature, Nightmare, Spirit. And it's a 3/1 with the ability that reads, whenever Spin Crusher deals damage to an opponent. That opponent, if that opponent has 5 or more cards in their hand, they discard a card at random.
I would play that card. This card, your card right here, I would play this card.
Yep, that's it. And then the flavor text reads, "You ever seen a storm of bones? I doubt it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be talking to me." Quote, "The Hermit."
The Hermit.
All right, what is this thing?
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got the creature. It's a creature.
It's a nightmare spirit?
No.
Damn it.
I'm just saying it's a creature. It is a 2 cost, 2 generic. It's an artifact creature. It's an 0-2 artifact creature. 0-2. Yep. It says whenever Spin Crusher blocks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Remove and second ability, remove a +1/+1 counter from Spin Crusher. Spin Crusher is unblockable this turn. and you ready? Here's the whole reason why I decided this is the card I wanted to bring to you today. The flavor text.
Mm-hmm.
The flavor text reads almost like one of us came up with it. It reads, "It rolls with the punches." I don't know why. And then the picture is of like this. It has 2 wheels. That's it, side by side. So it's almost like a unicycle, but it's a bicycle creature.
Oh, I'm seeing it now. I just looked it up. It's like a what is that called? Is it a moped?
Yeah, it's like a moped.
It's like a moped. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It immediately made me think. I also picked this card because it looks like a card that they would print for Aether Drift, which is the next set that's coming out. And here's my prediction: they reprint this in Aether Drift. Right? Look at that card. It's speedy.
I'm playing the Tokyo Drift theme in my head as I look at it.
It's rolling with the punches.
It is rolling with the punches. Maybe they'll make a Lightning McQueen. What is that called? Secret Layer.
Oh gosh.
Card.
Oh my gosh.
Spin Crusher.
You they'd
probably do it. Some vehicle.
Some people got really upset right now. Some people just got upset right now.
Why?
You saying that?
You don't think that Disney is eventually going to release their IP?
I would be for it. I'm totally fine for it. I'm totally fine.
They've already released Marvel IP. Eventually, the Cars Secret Layer is coming.
That would really
same
bring
parent
in some
company.
People. They would bring in some people.
For Cars, yeah, I would play Lightning McQueen CEDH for sure, 100%. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode on Marvin the Mimic. Please direct your attention below to our description where you'll find links to all the places we host our podcast, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. And please don't forget to leave a comment in the YouTube comments down below. It helps us a lot. Comment what you thought of today's episode or your suggestion for our next card. Check out our link tree to find links to our Patreon, where you can find additional Tag C content. We post additional podcasts, as well as it gives you access to our secret Discord channel, where you can talk to us and give us recommendations for cards and everything about the podcast. So take a look at our Patreon in the link tree in the description down below. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode, and we will see you next Monday. Bye.
Goodbye.